These two problems are asking to find the x and y intercepts. So to start with, the y-intercept is probably a little bit easier to find. To find the y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0 and then just evaluate the right-hand side of the equation here and then solve for x. So if I evaluate, do order of operations, this first term is just going to be 0. 0 squared times a negative 2 is 0, plus 18 just gives me the constant 18. So our y-intercept, when we let x equal 0, the output y was 18. That's your y-intercept. For the x-intercept, it's a little bit more algebra involved. We're going to let our y equal 0, or f of x, same difference, equals negative 2x squared plus 18. Now we want to solve for x. This problem it's not necessary to factor it per se, but you could if you wanted to. You could factor out a negative 2 and then factor by using the reverse FOIL method. But another way to do this is just to get the x by itself. So the first thing that I would move is the 18 by subtracting it from both sides of the equation. Since there's only one x term in the problem, it might be the quicker way to go. Then to finish out, I want to get rid of the negative 2. It's hooked by multiplication. So divide both sides by negative 2. So a negative 18 divided by negative 2 gives me positive 9. But that's x squared. We want just x. And keep in mind, this is a degree 2 problem, so we should end up with 2 answers. When I take the square root to both sides, this is where I am going to get my 2 different values here. X could be a positive square root of 9, which is 3, or x could be the negative square root of 9, or negative 3. So this has 2 x-intercepts, one at positive 3, 0, and the other one at negative 3, 0. For the last one, same idea. We're going to find the y-intercept first by letting my x's equal 0. Simplify it out. So 0 minus 0 plus 5 gives me the 5. And so when x is 0, that's the x part of my point, my y came out to be the number 5. To find the x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. And unlike the other problem, I'm not going to be able to just take the square root to both sides and finish solving this out because I have 2 different terms that have x's in them. So I'm going to go back to the backwards FOIL method of factoring. To get the 3x squared, I'm going to be needing a 3x times a 1x. Because the last number is positive 5, the signs have to be the same, either positive 1 times positive 5 or negative 1 times negative 5. Because the middle term's negative, that indicates that both of these signs have to be minuses. Now I have 2 choices. I can either put the 1 in the first parenthesis and the 5 in the second, or I can put the 5 in the first and the 1 in the second, and it will make a difference. If I put the 5 in the first and the 1 in the second and check my middle term, negative 5 times x is negative 5x. 3 times negative 1, negative 3x. And if you add the negative 5 and the negative 3, you do get the negative 8 in the middle, which is the combination that you needed. If you'd have changed that order around, you wouldn't have gotten the negative 8 in the middle. Set each factor equal to 0. So I'm going to set the 3x minus 5 equal to 0, solve for x. So add 5 to both sides to get the x by itself. And then divide off by 3. So you have x equals 5/3 is one of your x-intercepts, which means when x is 5/3, your y value is 0. And then set the other factor equal to 0. Solve for x. So add 1 to both sides. And we get x equals 1. So I have the x-intercept of 1, 0. So I have 2 x-intercepts and 1 y-intercept.